once again, Bauer poses this question. He does it over and over and over again. Now, we know he's a lawyer, and this book is clearly the legal briefing of as if he were going to take this to court, because he keeps reminding the jury, what's the question here? Did she really want to be part of the royal family, or did she just care about celebrity? You know, how many times is he going to ask us that question? But he's trying to prove his point here. And again, he poses that question. Did Meghan intend to play her part as a young royal fulfilling her duties, or was public recognition and celebrity more important? Well, the question was answered on February 6, 2019, by the publication of People magazine. Under the cover's headline, Her Best Friends Break Their Silence, the subheading was, The Truth About Meghan. And more telling was the headline, Meghan's Media Fight Back. Meghan, the magazine implied, had authorized her friends to brief the magazine. What I think is really interesting is, did Meghan ever sue People magazine? Did she ever come out and say, people are citing a letter that they never had any business knowing anything about? No, she never sued them, saying that People had taken her letter to her father and used it out of context or used it nefariously without her permission. None of that. So, I mean, she absolutely authorized her friends to speak. No one ever said Meghan called the magazine up, but her friends certainly knew exactly what she wanted them to say, all 5 of them. The article's substance was a flattering profile of a loving daughter living a frugal life in Kensington Palace who, despite being publicly maligned by a dreadful father, had sought heartfelt reconciliation. The breakdown in their relationship, Meghan's friends claimed, was entirely Thomas Markle's fault. The published article gave the impression that Meghan had informed at least one friend about the contents of her letter to Thomas Markle and his reply to her. Summarizing excerpts of Meghan's letter to Thomas, People magazine described the letter as a loving offer of reconciliation written days after the wedding. But in fact, Meghan wrote it 3 months later. Contrary to what she would later claim, the magazine had put the contents of the letter into the public domain. No. Meghan, you put the letters into the public domain when you told your friends, go call up People magazine. One of you guys knows the editor over there. Make it happen, Captain. And I just feel like for her to later come out and say, I had nothing to do with this, I had no knowledge, is the lamest lie of them all. I mean, she's told some whoppers already. Her ability to determine what the public will believe really exposes a reduced mental capacity. Who in the world would buy this lie that she didn't know? I'm so sick and tired. I didn't know. I don't recall. Meghan would emphatically deny being aware that the 5 had gotten interviews to the magazine or that the letters would be quoted. She would also claim to have become aware of the magazine's publication only after Harry told her. And then Harry only heard on the day of the publication from Kensington Palace's media team. Kensington Palace knows what's going on in the media world. They're always telling her before stories hit what's going down. So for her to say they only knew about it the day it hit the newsstand, BS. All right, so already that's a lie. But then for her to be like, I didn't have any idea about it. But then Harry came to me and told me that my friends had given an interview to People magazine. I never saw that one coming. But it's really notable that she's not mad at any of her friends for doing it. She continues to deny she knew about it, but she's never like, I'm really upset at their betrayal. But when her dad took pictures to improve his appearance in the media, she saw that as a massive betrayal, even though it had nothing to do with her whatsoever. And now her friends get together and all of them collectively decide to go to a huge celebrity paper like People and give a detailed interview, complete with quotes from a private letter to her father. But that's not a betrayal? I mean, that's all. Her reaction to what they did is proof enough that it wasn't a secret to her. If her friends had done that without her knowledge, even if it was positive, she would have been upset, I think, because it wouldn't have been the exact words she wanted them to say. They would never have gone against her like this. Because it's my belief that all her friends were only too willing to get in on this media circus because they're all social climbers just like she is. That's why they're so mad about Owen Scobie's book not coming out when they had expected it to, because they were thrilled they'd gotten a piece of that pie. They were thrilled to have been interviewed for it. So they are not looking for their gratification to be delayed any further either. That's why they pounced on this opportunity. They're not going to alienate Meghan by doing something she doesn't want them to do when they're so eager to be in her inner circle. Of course they had permission. The article was written by Michelle Talbert, and the article described how Meghan had authorized 5 friends who, quote, knew Meghan best to set the record straight. The 5 women, described as a longtime friend, a former co-star, a friend from Los Angeles, a one-time colleague, and a close confidant, painted an image of Meghan's elegance, grace, and philanthropy. Rejecting the portrayal of Meghan as a demanding bride, an exhausting boss, and an uncaring daughter, the magazine quoted one friend's eulogy. "She is a diamond doing her duty." They all sound about it as terrible as she is. All of them. Listen to the way their friends talk. None of these people are registered with reality. So Meghan's over there doing her duty, according to one friend. And this is how she claims Meghan really need never apologize for her behavior again, because she did this for the staff. Meghan had purchased an incredible ice cream and sorbet stand for her Kensington Palace staff. And that, testified the friend, evoked heartfelt cheers for the best day of work ever. I'm pretty sure that after your boss has lambasted you, degraded you, torn your self-esteem to shreds, and then she hands you an ice cream cone, you wouldn't be like, "Let's forgive and forget. This is great. I was about to leave this place with my soul unintact, but now that I have a cup of sorbet, we're good to go." Somebody help Meghan understand reality. And her friends are so lame for believing any of this. And then, first of all, it'd be lame enough if they believed it on their own. But for them to scurry on over to People magazine and expose their colossal ignorance and expose how naive they are, this isn't a good look for any of them either. Portraying Meghan as an unselfish woman living modestly, another friend described Meghan as lonely, frustrated, and denied any staff in Nottingham Cottage. But why would she need staff? That cottage is it's a small home. You know, it's perfect for 2 people. What do you need staff for? How messy are you that you need somebody to come and clean up after you? It's you and your husband. You guys can't pick up your things? You can't cook some supper for you guys? Like, what staff are you talking about that you don't have? You've got plenty of staff to help you get your work done as far as, like, royal stuff. And you have seemingly enormous amount of time, since you only do like 11 engagements in 7 weeks. Is that, are you so taxed for time that you can't pick up after yourself? You can't, make a little stir fry? I mean, what's going on here? Despite the fact that she was lonely and oppressed, her friend said that Meghan is the most down-to-earth, wonderful person you've ever heard. And these are the traits and characteristics of one who is down-to-earth and lovelier than you could ever believe. She provided hand warmers for the police guarding the palace gates. That's Meghan's favorite thing. She must have a stockpile of these. She must have seen this somewhere where somebody handed somebody else a hand warmer, and then she decided that she would always make sure she had some. So out of the largesse of her heart, she is out there handing out hand warmers for the police guarding the palace gates. Also, she likes to paint her nails while sitting next to a heater because the place just doesn't have any warmth. But huddled up next to the heater, she's just like you or me painting her nails. She doesn't have any staff to paint her nails. There's nobody in there to help her with that, but she can do it herself next to that heater. She's found a way still to be happy. She's still, cheerful and grinning with her fingernail polish and her little seat by the heater. And the friend also wants to let you know that she's happy to rustle up a 5-star meal out of the garbage in your refrigerator. That sentence doesn't really make sense because the pronoun tense is wrong, but I think what's supposed to be being said here is that Meghan has the potential to be able to rustle up a 5-star meal out of the garbage in one's refrigerator. Well, if she's happy to do that and she has the capacity to do it, then why is she crying that she has no staff to do it? Friends, are you listening to what Meghan is saying to you? They go on. One friend describes her as very self-service, which doesn't even make grammatical sense, but she's very self-service. And they said that she has a close relationship with God and a deep sense of gratitude and humility. And anybody who wants to say that her up at 5 a.m. is browbeating to the staff, it isn't. It's just people are misreading her organized, diligent, focused, hardworking nature. So get that right, everybody. She's actually an awesome person who loves Jesus and has a real deep sense of gratitude and humility. But you guys, this goes back to what I was talking about earlier. Why does she feel the need to describe herself this way? It isn't important enough to her that she would live her life in this way. So why does she care what anybody thinks? Why does she have to put this narrative out there? If she cared enough, she would do these things. Fundamentally, I just don't understand why she needs this to be what's out there. No part of her cares about being this way. Similarly, the staff turnover, they said, was just all natural courses of employment, which makes you want to ask yourself, do any of these women work? Have they ever worked in an office? This is not normal or natural that people are leaving saying that they are a destroyed personality. And if you are working and this is your natural environment, I am so sorry. That is terrible that you think that this is a normal working environment where people are just falling out like flies. They also showed a little bit of disdain for Harry, and they were insensitive to the implication of Harry's competence because they said that Meghan often had to help him write his speeches. First of all, if Meghan is the one you're turning to help you write speeches, then we're all doomed. But they don't need to expose Harry like that. That is not something I'm sure he would want the world to know. And if the opposite was said of Meghan, Harry has to help Meghan write her speeches, she would be incensed with rage. But it's okay for the friends to say that about Harry, because you can imagine that Meghan is not very kind in her speech about Harry. Like when she's talking with her girlfriends, she's not uplifting her husband. Even though she always goes out to all the media and is always talking about, I just wanted to do whatever I could to protect H. It's like, really? None of us believe that. Especially not after your weeping episode on the floor telling him you were going to kill yourself and your baby. I'm sure you really, really, really care about H's feelings. The friends also wanted everybody to know that the story about the tiara and the perfume in the chapel, 100% untrue. None of that happened. It's like just a bunch of gossipy courtiers with a bunch of lies. They just don't like Americans is really it. And the other thing that's not true is Meghan and Catherine don't have any problems with each other, okay? Meg and Kate are besties, and so that weird narrative needs to die already because it's so not true. The five friends' significant contribution was their description of Meghan's relationship with her father. They claimed that it was false to suggest that Meghan had shut Thomas out. On the contrary, her letter had sought to repair the relationship. And they were very insistent on this point. Meghan loves her dad, wants to have a relationship with her dad, and that's what the letter said. But that old buffoon just completely and totally shut the door in her face, even though she was trying to get him to love her again. The blame for not speaking or texting since the wedding fell entirely on Thomas Markle. The magazine reported that Meghan had written, "Dad, I'm so heartbroken. I love you. I have one father. Please stop victimizing me through the media so that we can repair our relationship." But of course, we know that's not true. We know that she said explicitly to Jason Kanoff, I am writing this letter so that my dad knows the door is shut on our relationship. I don't want one with him anymore. And this is my final words to my dad. Okay, so we know that to be true. So we would know that the stuff that came out in the People magazine is a complete and total fabrication of what was actually said. I do not know how Meghan thought that her dad, who is no stranger to the media, wasn't going to come quickly hustling out to set the record straight. And maybe that's what she was banking on, that he would come and set the record straight. But the letter that he has from her is not great. It's a complete departure from what her friends are saying. So I'm not sure what Meghan was hoping would happen there. But maybe it's just that he would come out, he would expose the letter, and then she could say once again, see, here he is, our private communication, and he's splashing it all over the page. All over the place. Can anybody blame me for not wanting to have a relationship with this man? And of course, we know that she'd carefully crafted that letter so that in the event that it was leaked or was given to the press, she would look like this heartbroken young lady. She does look heartbroken in the letter, I guess you could say, although to any discerning eye, it's the most manipulative letter you ever saw. But she thought she'd carefully crafted it so it would look like she was really this poor little victim to her father's rage, indignation, and abuse. But even though in her mind it's not going to be necessarily a negative if anybody reads the letter, it will be because it's a direct contradiction from what she told her friends to say. So everyone's going to see there's some lie has happened here. Regardless of the content of either of the letters, they don't match, so somebody's lying. But back to the People magazine article, her friend's purpose, they said, was to tackle the lies, the emotional trauma, and expose the global bullying inflicted upon a pregnant person who loves her animals and loves her friends. You guys, she's just a pregnant lady. Why is everybody being so mean to her? She loves her dogs. I mean, anybody who walks their dogs and gives them treats is somebody you can trust. Focusing on Thomas Markle, one friend said he had ignored over 20 phone calls and texts before the wedding from Meghan. He knows how to get in touch with her. Her telephone number hasn't changed. He's never called. He's never texted. I think she'll always feel genuinely devastated by what he's done. Poor Meghan. Can you imagine it? Her dad is so mean. They also claimed that Meghan was hurt that Thomas had just refused to get in the car that she provided to take him to the airport, and that he had not even told her that he wasn't coming to the wedding. That she woke up on the wedding day and didn't even know where her dad was. That's the kind of person Thomas is. She even brought a car around to the house to pick him up, and he just didn't get in it. And she didn't even know he wasn't coming. And that big fat weirdo is out here saying Meghan's so terrible. He's the bad one. Clearly, the friend relying on Meghan did not believe that Thomas Markle had undergone heart surgery or even been ill in the hospital, which reflects the fact that neither did Meghan. That was the story she was telling everybody. My dad says he's in the hospital, but we know he isn't really. Can you imagine if you were Thomas Markle cracking open this magazine and reading this story? This is not what this man needs to help him move on. It's super painful, the friend continued, because Meghan is always so dutiful. At the same time, because she's a daughter, she's a lot of sympathy for him. She took care of her father with such incredible generosity. The fact that this could be flipped around and that she was acting out or not caring for him is preposterous. All right, well, I got a lot of problems with what this friend just said. If this friend is trying to make Meghan look better, she really is failing at the job, because this line right here, Meghan was always so dutiful. Well, yeah, that makes it sound like she's doing something, dragging her feet. She has to do it. It's a duty. She doesn't love her dad, but she's thrown him a couple of bones over time because it's her duty after all. And even the friend goes on to say, at the same time, she's a daughter, so she has a lot of sympathy for him. So basically, let's translate what the friend is saying. Meghan hates having to take care of her dad because he's just a fat phony. But since she is his daughter, she does kind of feel bad for him. And the friend wants us all to know that Meghan is just so generous. Well, if she is, then she just shut her trap and keep trying to do for her dad without having the whole world know her business. But let's move on. Meghan, the friend says, has looked after her father financially. And, by the way, has been a rock to everyone in the family. So whatever Samantha's over here talking about, or Tom Jr., total and utter trash. Meghan has been the only one anyone could rely on in this chaotic family. Meg has silently sat back and endured the lies and untruths. We worry about what it's doing to her and the baby. Oh, my goodness. Like, all these sycophant friends, I'm so agitated by all of them. And I'm so grossed out by how Meghan gets people around her who just believe her lies and then are willing to regurgitate it. I mean, Harry, number one. Harry's been doing the work of the devil for a long time now. And all of these 5 friends are doing the exact same thing. It's just like Meghan's like, these are the lines, just say them. I'm going to program you to say these things, just say these things. And they do.